I've now reached my 5 first rows, and just to show you that I can, or how I see that it is 5 rows, since I'm working both back and forth, there's going to be 2 sides to this. And when I'm working in the back loop only, there's going to be this line here that shows this row. So on this side, I can see 1, 2 rows. And on my other side, it's going to be this line down here. It's going to be 1 row, and then the top row is my final row. So it's 3 rows on this side I can see, and 2 rows over here. So this is 5 rows total. And before I move on to my 6th row, which is where I'm going to start the SameYou text pattern, I have opened Stitchfiddle, a program that helps me track my progress. In Stitchfiddle you can activate the thing called Progress Tracker, which helps you track which row you're at and which stitch you've reached in the row. The SameYou text pattern is 40 stitches wide, and my work is 68 stitches wide. This means I'm going to have to do a little bit of math. I want the SameYou text pattern centered, so I'm going to be working the pattern in the middle of my work here. So I need to figure out how far in I need to go before I start the pattern. So since my work is 68 stitches long, I'm going to do the 68 stitches minus 40. Then I've got 28 stitches left. And since I want it centered, I'm going to divide the 28 stitches by 2, which gives me 14. This means I have to go 14 stitches into my into the next row before I start the pattern. Then I do the pattern, then I do my 14 stitches over here. Now I've reached my 14 stitches, and I'm going to go into the SameYou text pattern in Stitchfiddle. And in my first row, I can see I need to do 8 of my background color, 8 stitches with my background color before I do a color change. But I'm only going to do 7. And then the 8th, the final stitch before my color change, is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to do 7 stitches here, and then I'll walk you through how to change color and how to crochet around the color we're not using. That was 7. So now the next one is my last stitch before I do the color change. So I have my new color yarn. It's going to be this lighter white, and I'm going to leave a small end. The way I do this, I don't leave this end loose when I do my work. Since this tea towel is going to be showing both sides, the back side is going to be pretty as well. So I'm going to leave a short, relatively short tail, just 5 centimeters or so. And then I'm going to crochet around it. I'll show you how. But first, the color change itself. So I'll start out my final stitch the way I usually do. So go under the back loop, bring the yarn around, and now I have, well, 2 moves left, if you call it that. So first, I take my yarn, grab my yarn, and pull it through once. And now I have 1 move left. And the final move is where I want to make my color change. So now I'll just grab this loose end, the yarn here. I'm holding on to both these 2 and pulling them through here. So this means I'm going to have to tighten the loops a little bit. So now I have the new color here. And I'm going to take my loose end of yarn here and put it down here by my work, on top of it. The yarn I'm not using, the background color here, is also going to be down here with my work. And then I'm going to be grabbing my working yarn, the color I'm working with here. So now I'm just going to crochet like I usually do. So as you can see, there are these two. I'm going to go around those. So in front of them first, I find the back loop, and then I go underneath those two as well. So back loop here, and then underneath the two, the yarn I want to crochet around, I grab the yarn over here and I pull one through. And then I do my stitches just like I did before. Through one and through both. So that was one stitch. And in Stitchfiddle I can see I need to do 6 stitches with this color now. That was 1. And again, the 6th is where I want to make my color change in my final move. So I'll do 5 first. So 1. 2. And I keep going around the yarn here. So it goes into my work like I showed before. 3. So back loop, under. 4. Back loop, under. 5. And then the next one is the final one with the white. For right now until I do a color change. So I go under, around the 2 yarns, grab the white one there. Do the first one with the white, and then I just drop the white one here, and I grab back on hold of my blue yarn over, and pull it through. So now I've got 2 white loose ends. You might only have 1 left now, but I have 2 here. So I'm going to work around this yarn. And I need to do 2 stitches with the blue yarn. So under the back loop, around the 2 white ones, grab it, through one, through both. That was 1. And since I need to do 2, this is the stitch where I'm gonna go back to the white now. So yarn under, the back loop, grab my yarn, pull through, grab my yarn, pull through 1, let go of the blue yarn, and pick up the white yarn again. And there we go. And I'm still going around both of these yarns. So in my Stitchfiddle, I can see I need to do 6 white ones now. So going around. And every once in a while, I'm just going to tug on this this loose end here to make sure it's a bit taut. Not pull it really tight, but just tug a little bit on it. And this frayed end here, I'm just going to cut it, or leave it hanging out and then cut it later, so it doesn't interfere or stick out somewhere. And since I've got this, it's in the work all this way, it is secured now. So this end has been secured. And this was my final white on this row. So now I'm just gonna leave my white yarn here and not crochet around it, because when I come back, it's gonna be where it needs to be in the next row. So I'm just gonna finish my row in the very same way I've done every other row. Once I've finished this row, I turn, and in Stitchfiddle I will go to row 2. The only thing to remember here is that I'm working from the other side in Stitchfiddle. So instead of working from 1 through 40, I'm going to be working back from 40 through 1 because it's in my even rows that I'm working backwards on the pattern. And on the back side, we're going to be using the same technique with the string, the yarn that we're not working with. So I'm going to be showing you that in just a minute. So now I've finished my row, first row of the pattern, turned my work, and worked back until the pattern starts again. So there's going to be a bit of blue going on until I reach the point where I have to change back to the white. I have made this SameYou text pattern so that almost every row, there's a little bit around the M and the A that's not the same, but otherwise every row will be the same on the way back. This makes it quite a bit easier. So there's only a few places where you need to be, well, looking at this, remembering this. Okay, so now I have one remaining stitch before I get to the 2 white stitches over here. And as you'll see, the yarn for the white is hanging on the inside here. And we want it to stay on this side because it is going to be the back side of the tea towel. So we want the front side with the text to be, well, the prettiest. So we'll try to keep the non-working yarn on this backside while crocheting over it. But first the color change, the final stitch, I do my back loop only, grab the yarn, pull through, and this is where we change back. And this time, instead of just leaving the yarn, I'm gonna pull my working yarn to this side, and then I'll grab my color change and pull it up here. And before I move on, I'm just gonna make sure it's relatively taut. I'm gonna tighten it all the way or anything, but just make sure it's relatively taut. Then there's this little on the first flip, and I'm gonna just push it in there and then go to the back. And like I mentioned before, it's gonna be the same on the way back, so this means I'm gonna need 2 stitches here. And I just forgot to yarn around or work around my other yarn, so I'm gonna undo my stitch, take this blue yarn, and remember that I'm working around it. So go under the the blue yarn into the back loop. This can be a little bit tricky, so just take your time. It's not a rush or anything. Then I'm doing my first white stitch, and then I'm doing my second white stitch, and this is the last one. So going around, taking the white yarn, pulling it over here, and grabbing onto my blue yarn and pulling it through. As you can see here, my yarn is beginning to crisscross a little bit. I'll just move my entire skein to the other side, so it gets untangled, or you can try to keep it untangled, but my experience is it usually gets tangled anyway. So on here, the white yarn is still lying here, so I'm going to go around the yarn under back loop like before, keep it a bit taut, just following the Stitchfiddle pattern, and keeping in mind that it should be, well, almost on every occasion it'll be the same on the way back. I'm now coming up on my final color change of this row. So putting the white over, and again I'm just going to leave the white yarn here because I'm going to be picking it up in the same place. I am back on row 3 of the SameYou text pattern. Coming up on my first color change here. And this row is going to have a few more color changes. Final stitch, final move, letting go, grabbing onto the white. There we go, tightening the blue a little bit and keeping it under here. So again, I'm going under my back loop around my yarn. And in this row, Stitchfiddle says that I need to do 2 white. Oh, that was my second one, so switching back to the blue already. And the final white stitch of the row. Oh. I'll drop the white yarn like I did before and just leave it on the back side so I can pick it up when I get back. Like I mentioned earlier, it can be a little bit fiddlesome, or I don't know if that's a word, but sometimes these things are just, well, just need to be working slow and fiddling with it. So this was the first 4 rows of the SameYou text pattern with the color changing. I'll leave this end behind like I did before. So I am coming up on the last color change of the U word, on the final U, final letter U. And if you look at Stitchfiddle, you will see that there is going to be a gap from this end of the U here to where the E starts in same. This means we're going to have to make a choice of either carry